in the cold, endless darkness of the North Atlantic. Nearly 5 kilometers beneath the waves, rests one of history's most formidable war machines. The German battleship Bismarck was not just another vessel. She was a floating fortress, a symbol of Hitler's ambition, and a nightmare for the Royal Navy. When Bismarck sailed into action in May 1941, the entire balance of naval warfare seemed to shift. Her sheer firepower, thick armor, and speed made her one of the deadliest warships ever built. But her story would be short-lived after a ferocious battle at sea. She was sent to the ocean floor, carrying with her not only hundreds of sailors, but also unanswered questions. For decades, historians debated the final hours of Bismarck. Was she sunk by overwhelming British firepower, or did her crew scuttle their own ship to prevent capture? The wreck itself was discovered in 1989 by Robert Ballard, the same oceanographer who had found the Titanic just 4 years earlier. But technology back then could only capture limited images. What lay within the twisted steel hull, in its cold and silent tomb, remained largely unknown. That mystery has now been revisited. An advanced underwater drone mission returned to the wreck, equipped with high-definition cameras, sonar, and scanning tools. What the drones revealed stunned researchers and left the world unsettled. The expedition began with a descent into the abyss. The deeper the drone went, the darker and colder the waters became, until daylight vanished completely. Lights pierced through the gloom as the silhouette of Bismarck slowly came into view. The first thing seen was the battleship's massive bow, buried deep in sediment, still towering and menacing after more than 80 years. The hull, once painted in intimidating camouflage, is now encrusted with sea life and rust, but its presence is unmistakable. Then, something unusual caught the drone's cameras: large, perfectly circular holes in the armor plating, bigger than what ordinary shells could make. These were not the scars of typical naval gunfire. They hinted at explosions from within, suggesting that Bismarck's crew might have detonated charges to ensure she never fell into enemy hands. But there was more. The midsection of the ship was torn open, almost peeled back, exposing inner compartments. As the drone maneuvered closer, beams of light illuminated rooms frozen in time. Inside, dishes, utensils, and fragments of uniforms still lay scattered, preserved by the crushing depths. One compartment revealed something chilling: human remains, skeletal outlines, still wearing fragments of boots and naval gear. For decades, Bismarck has been regarded as a war grave, and seeing those remains was a sobering reminder of the lives lost during that final battle. The drone's cameras then focused on the stern section. Here, engineers noticed something that had never been documented before. Massive torpedo damage ripped through the rear armor, tearing entire bulkheads apart. And yet, despite all this destruction, large parts of the ship remain almost eerily intact. The main gun turrets, weighing over 1,000 tons each, still rest silently in place, aimed forever at nothing. The team then made a shocking discovery near one of the main gun turrets. Etched into the steel, hidden by decades of corrosion, were faint markings, letters, and numbers that seemed deliberately carved. After digital enhancement, the markings appeared to be crew names, scratched in desperation during the final hours. One of the most disturbing sights came from the drone's pass near the engine rooms. There, scorch marks were visible along the inner walls, consistent with fires that burned after the ship had already been mortally wounded. The evidence suggested that Bismarck's end was far more chaotic and terrifying than previously imagined. It wasn't just the British shells that doomed her, but also desperate measures taken by her own crew. As the drone continued its exploration, it revealed another haunting detail. Lying in the debris field were dozens of helmets, boots, and personal effects, scattered across the ocean floor like silent echoes of the men who wore them. One helmet still bore the insignia of the Kriegsmarine Eagle, preserved as if it had been placed there yesterday. Perhaps the most terrifying discovery of all came from the ship's forward compartments. Here, researchers found what looked like evidence of sealed rooms that had never been breached. The bulkheads were shut tight, suggesting that sailors may have been trapped inside as the ship went down. The realization sent chills down the spines of those watching the footage. Hundreds may have met their end, not from explosions or drowning in open water, but locked inside the steel giant as she sank. This revelation reignited the debate over Bismarck's final hours. The new evidence suggested that while British firepower crippled the ship, it was ultimately her crew who sealed her fate, ensuring she would never be captured alive. But the drone mission wasn't just about confirming history, it uncovered mysteries no one expected. Near the wreck, lying in the sand, the cameras picked up something odd: large metallic fragments that did not match Bismarck's design. Some believe these were from the British warships that engaged her. Others argue they might belong to an earlier, unknown wreck. The discovery sparked speculation that the ocean floor around Bismarck may still hold secrets yet to be uncovered. Another eerie moment occurred when the drone lights caught the reflection of glass. It was a bottle, still sealed, rolling in the sand. Inside was liquid, perhaps a sailor's final stash of alcohol, untouched since 1941. Artifacts like this humanized the wreck, reminding us that beneath the skill and strategy were men who lived, fought, and died aboard her. The expedition team concluded that Bismarck's wreck tells a story of both immense power and immense tragedy. Her sinking marked not just the end of a ship, but the end of Germany's dream to rule the seas. Yet, more than 80 years later, the emotions surrounding her still run deep. For Germany, she was a symbol of pride. For Britain, she was an enemy that had to be destroyed at all costs. For the families of those who died, she remains a tomb. The drone mission has now provided the world with unprecedented insight, but it has also raised haunting new questions. What really happened in those final hours, as shells rained down and fires spread? Did the crew deliberately scuttle the ship, sealing themselves inside to deny the enemy a prize? Or was Bismarck simply overwhelmed by relentless British firepower? Her armor finally breached beyond repair. The truth may lie somewhere in between. What is certain is that the wreck now stands as both a war memorial and a warning from history. Technology has finally allowed us to see her in ways never imagined, but the sight leaves us unsettled. The ocean floor preserves not just steel, but the final moments of men caught in the fury of war. The haunting images captured by the drone will remain etched in memory, just as Bismarck herself remains etched in history. She was built to terrify, and even in death, she still manages to do exactly that. The mission closed with one final sweep over the wreck. The cameras lingered on the massive forward guns, still aimed into the void, as if waiting for an enemy that will never come. And then the lights faded, leaving Bismarck once again in the eternal darkness of the deep.